Yo, what's going on, guys? Reversal here, and today I'm going to be doing an updated Swordsoul deck profile for the current format. I think this deck's pretty solid at the moment. I think a lot of the non-engine that's being played, it's like the general hand traps like Ash, Imperm, Veiler, Troll, you see a lot of. They don't really kill this deck for the most part. Like sometimes you draw really bad and like an Imperm on your normal summon can really hurt you badly, but for the most part, you could play through those kind of hand traps. Like Droll isn't like that one's not really good versus this deck very often. So that's like a positive. The main one you want to worry about with this deck is Nibiru, but right now I think Nib isn't like super popular, so you can kind of get away with playing the more greedy lines of play, going for like the Sinister first to get the extra draw, and then that card is kind of a crazy interrupt right now, especially with all the field spells and stuff going around. So I think as long as Nib's not super popular, that's when this deck can really thrive. But yeah, for like a mid-range, like fair deck, I think this you could definitely win games with this deck right now, in my opinion. To like regional level and stuff like that, I think it's perfectly fine. But yeah, it's just typical Swordsoul stuff for the most part. But yeah, before I get into it, definitely drop a like and sub if you haven't already. I'm trying to hit 1,000 and I'm at about 900 right now, so getting really close. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight to it. So we got the 3 Moyi, 3 Longyong, 2 Taya, and 3 Ecclesia. This is the normal like Swordsoul card ratios. You could bump Ecclesia down to 2 if you want. I go back and forth between 2 and 3 all the time. It's really nice going second, but going first, sometimes having 3 in the deck can be cloggy since you have these 5 already, which are normal summons. So that's 8 normal summons, which is kind of a lot, to be honest. But a lot of the time, you're not really normal summoning Taya a lot of the time. You're just kind of holding it for follow-up, or you're cycling through it and then getting your Moyi. But for the most part, having 3 of these is fine. It just can be cloggy sometimes going first, but going second, it's really nice. And for the Tenyis, playing 3 Ashuna, 3 Vishuddha, 3 Adhara, and 1 Shitana. Just max the note on them. So these cards are really nice. Just obviously to give you more worms, so you have reveals and discards for your Swordsoul cards. Vishuddha is nice going second to spin something. Adhara is really nice for getting your resources back and then getting your follow-up. Then obviously the Shitana's for circle mainly, but it can come up to summon off Ashuna in other instances as well. But these cards are really nice into SP as well, which is cool. So yeah, I think maxing out of them is good. I'm playing 43 cards in the main deck, so can get away with playing a little more heavy on the engine side. So if you want to trim this down to 40, you easily can by cutting down on the Tenyis a little bit, or an Ecclesia, or some of the other cards in the deck. But I think 43 is perfectly fine, just so you're kind of not clogging on stuff as much. And then there's a new card that has gone to 3, which kind of can help support a little higher deck count as well, which we'll get to in a second. So for the spells, we got 3 Pot of Desires, 3 Emergence, 3 Circle, and 1 Blackout. Yeah, Desires is at 3 now, so it's Pot of Greed. Gotta play Pot of Greed. If you play 40, I think you could play 2 of them. But I'm playing 43, so I'm just playing 3. I feel like in 40, it's a little harder to fit all 3 of them, especially if you want the 10U count high. So, I mean, but you definitely could. But for the most part, Desires is something I'd rather use after combo, just to get the +1 when you're already kind of decked in a little bit. But sometimes you do want to start with it to bait out Ash and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Emergence, Blackout, standard. Heavenly Dragon Circle is probably my favorite card right now. In this deck, this card has just been so good for me as of late. For dodging imperms, veilers, there's a lot of stuff in the format that just targets, so whether it's Little Knight or Rescue Ace back row, anything of that nature, this card's really nice. And this card also helps you with follow-up, since when it's in the graveyard on your following turn, you could banish it and add a Tenyi, so it can help get you Tenyis to play with on your crackback. So yeah, I usually play this at 2 for the most part, like the past couple of years, but I think it's really good at 3 right now, and I've been enjoying it at 3 for sure. I'm not playing Vessel. I think that card's like fine, but for the most part, every time I've tried it, I haven't been a huge fan of it. It can be nice, but there's hands where it just kind of isn't ideal to have it. And then I think that card's mainly as good as Nib is. So like if Nib's super popular, you want more cards to beat Nib, and that card can help you beat Nib, since it's just more Tenyi access, so you could go through the Chaofeng line more often. But yeah, for now, I don't think it's needed, and I'm not a huge fan of it. But you can definitely play it if you like it. So that's it for the engine, spell and traps and stuff. Now for the non-engine cards, I'm playing 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperm, and 3 Droplet. The hand traps are nice in this deck, just because you can get away with doing 1-for-1 trades in this deck, since your engine, like with the Tenyis and stuff, is good at pushing through the minimal kind of boards anyway. So if you're using the low impact hand traps and kind of just hindering what they're ending on, it can make it a little easier for you as well. And then these cards are just good when you're going first too, since you don't put up like a super threatening board. It's usually just a couple synchros, maybe a blackout. So having the hand traps to back it up is nice. And the last one's Droplet. This card's nice on this deck for because you can send like Tenyis and stuff. So that's like pretty good discards for it. I think this card's pretty good in general right now. And anytime I have a chance to play Droplet, I like playing it, because this is one of my favorite cards in terms of non-engine. So I think it's pretty good. If you don't want to play Droplet, you could play either just more hand traps, like you could main deck Droll, but I think Droll's probably more of a side card right now in my opinion, until Phantom of Nightmare. Then I think it'll be absolutely a main deck card because of Bonfire. But if you don't want to play Droplet, you could also potentially play Super Poly. This does require 2 extra deck slots, so that's something to keep in mind, but I'll talk about that when we get to the extra deck if you want to try this card out. But this card's pretty nice right now as well, but sometimes it's not great in the main deck, so and I don't think it's worth siding, because it does take up those 2 extra deck spots. So this is the lineup I've been playing with, and I've been liking it. And then like the Ash and the Veiler, since they're tuners, they can sometimes normal summon them can sometimes come up as well. So that's it for the main deck. Like I said, 43 cards. For the extra deck, we got the 2 Shisha, 1 Chengying, 1 Sinister, Baron, Draco Berserker. These are all just standard. This one's like the craziest one, the Sinister. That card's so good, especially into, like I said, the field spells. Then getting the extra draw is really nice. We got the Yazi, double Boxia. Boxia is insane. Definitely my favorite card in the extra deck. Just it not being once per turn, and then just being able to just clear stuff is really nice. And we got the Chaofeng to help play around failures and nibs when you have hand good enough to do so. Then we got 2 Monk, 1 Shaman, and then for the last 2 slots, I'm playing the 1 SP and the 1 Typhon. These cards are definitely not mandatory in this deck by any means. So if you're on a budget, you could definitely cut these 2. But so far, I found they come up here and there, so I want to play them just because I have them. So, but you definitely don't need to play either one. If you want to replace these with the budget option, you could just play a 3rd Monk and like a Dragite, which is perfectly fine. And then if you opt to play Super Poly, you would want the Mud Dragon and the Guru right here, and then you'd want to side the Draco Quest, I think. But for the most part, these two are good enough. But I think you just want the Draco Quest for Vanadium if you're gonna play it. So, but if you have these two, I think they're worth playing, but they're not mandatory by any means. So that's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, as usual, it's gonna be kind of like incomplete because there's a lot of different options you could choose. But I'll just kind of go over like the most popular choices you could use. Droll, I feel like you gotta play this card somewhere right now, just to have it for the combo decks. Nib, this one could definitely get away with not playing this one as well at all. But I feel like if you're gonna play it in this deck, you probably just side it. Just because like if you main it, it can be awkward with the since it does turn off your 10U sometimes. You'd have to like crash it or link it off or something. And since I'm not playing like line or anything, that can get a little more annoying. So Nib's definitely just more of an option rather than like you have to play this on the side. 3 talents. I like playing this card since it's good going first and second. Like if you're facing a deck that's hand trap heavy, a lot of the times their hand trap isn't going to be super impactful. So if they do hit you with one of those hand traps, the talents can be extremely punishing. As long as your hand wasn't garbage and you can go for the hand rip. This card can just win you games by itself if you do get hit by a hand trap and have a hand that's good enough to put up a few disruptions, and then after you look at your hand, it's kind of just over from there. Then we got back row hate. We got 2 Storm and Duster and 3 Cosmics. I don't think you play all 6 of these, but I think you play some combination of these for sure. Cosmics, nice compared to these because you can also side it in going first, which is nice. And then going second, it's nice into field spells and stuff like that. Especially the ones that you don't want to destroy. Like the Fire King Island, it's a lot better to just Cosmic that, since they can protect it with the Sanctuary for these. And then, yeah, these are just, I feel like these are good for rescue ace more than anything, the mass clears, but other than that, I feel like they're not that great right now, so I think Cosmic is probably the better card, and you could just get away with not playing these at all, or just playing like the Cosmics and the 1 Duster. But yeah, just you want to have some number of these in the side deck for sure, depending on what you want to respect more. But then we got Bells and Crows. I feel like you want to have one of these in the side for sure. I don't think you play both of them unless you want to play like 2 and 2 or something, but I think Crow is generally the better card for the most part. But Ghost Spell can be nice. I think for Labyrinth, Ghost Spell is usually better, but they are getting rollback soon, so Crow gets a little more valuable with that card coming around as well. So it being able to hit rollback in other decks probably makes this the more valuable card moving forward. And then if people are using rollback in general to send with like Beatrice with the turn skip trap and stuff like that, Crow's really nice to have as well. So you want to have one of these. And then if you end up having space to run like a Floodgate, I usually don't even bother anymore, but you could play the 3 anti-spells. I think this is the best one for this deck since you can struggle into certain board breakers. Like just any of these talents and stuff, they can really hurt the Swordsoul board since you don't end on a whole lot. So this can be nice to have as a safety option if you want like an actual Floodgate going first. But yeah, that's about it for the deck. Like I said, I think it's pretty good right now, and I have a lot of fun playing it, so definitely give it a try, especially if you're on a budget. And that's gonna be it. Peace.